In the bustling heart of San Francisco stood the Grand Mansion, a testament to the relentless ambition of Richard Adams. At 57, Richard was a titan of the real estate industry, with his company, Adams Realty, dominating the market. Tall and imposing, with silver hair and a stern expression, Richard commanded respect and fear alike. Inside his lavishly decorated office, adorned with modern art and photographs of his early years, Richard meticulously reviewed quarterly reports, muttering about the need for increased efficiency. Richard's only son, Ethan Adams, 28, had a gentle demeanor and had grown up amidst luxury. Ethan was attractive, with a natural charm that drew people to him, yet he lacked his father's steeliness. Despite attending the finest schools and numerous leadership programs, Ethan struggled to meet Richard's exacting standards. One evening, after a respectful but weary greeting to his father and a brusque dismissal, Ethan retreated to his secret sanctuary, a small workshop behind a bookshelf where he indulged his passion for sculpture work. In stark contrast to the Adams mansion, a modest apartment in Oakland was home to Emma Johnson, 24, the sole breadwinner for her family. Working tirelessly as a housemaid, Emma faced long days filled with scrubbing floors and polishing surfaces. Her determination stemmed from her love for her ailing mother and younger brother. Early one morning, as Emma silently moved through the opulent halls of the Adams mansion, she was noticed by Ethan, who admired her dedication and hard work. Richard, always an astute observer, had watched Emma's diligent work and honest nature over the months. Inspired by a conversation about loyalty and dedication, Richard decided that his son needed a drastic lesson in humility and responsibility. He called Ethan into his office one evening. "Ethan, have a seat," Richard began, his tone uncharacteristically gentle yet firm. Ethan sat down, sensing that this conversation was different from their usual business discussions. "What is it, Dad?" Ethan asked, trying to read his father's expression. "I've been thinking about your future," Richard said, leaning back in his chair. "You need to learn what it means to be truly responsible, to understand the value of hard work and humility." Ethan frowned, not quite understanding. "I thought I was doing well at the office." "You are," Richard replied. "But there's more to life than just business. You need grounding. That's why I've decided you should marry Emma." Ethan's eyes widened in shock. "Marry Emma? The housemaid?" Richard nodded. "Yes, Emma. She embodies the qualities you lack. She's hardworking, honest, and responsible. Qualities you need to learn and appreciate." Michael's mind raced. The idea seemed ludicrous, but he knew better than to argue with his father. "But Dad, marriage isn't something you can just decide like a business deal. This isn't just about marriage, Ethan. It's about shaping your character. If you respect my judgment, you'll understand why this is necessary." Seeing no way out, Ethan reluctantly agreed, albeit with a heavy heart. "All right, Dad. If you believe this is what's best, I'll do it." The next day, Richard sought out Emma. He found her in the library, meticulously dusting the shelves. She looked up, startled to see him. "Mr. Adams, can I help you with something?" she asked, her voice polite but wary. "Yes, Emma. I have a proposition for you," Richard began, his tone serious. "I want you to marry my son, Ethan." Emma blinked, stunned. "Marry Ethan? But why?" "Because I believe you can teach him the values he desperately needs. Your dedication and integrity are exactly what he lacks," Richard explained. He then added, "In return, I'll provide a substantial financial incentive, enough to cover your mother's medical expenses and your brother's education." Emma's mind whirled. The offer was tempting, but the implications were daunting. "This is a lot to consider, Mr. Adams," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I understand," Richard said, his tone softening. "Take your time, but know this isn't just about my son. It's an opportunity for you and your family." That evening, Emma sat at the small kitchen table in her modest apartment, her head in her hands. Her mother, frail but wise, sat across from her. "What's troubling you, Emma?" her mother asked gently. "Mr. Adams wants me to marry his son. He says it's to teach him humility and responsibility," Emma replied, her voice tinged with hope and fear. Her mother's eyes widened in surprise. "And what do you think?" "I don't know, Mom. It's such a strange proposal, but it could change our lives. Pay for your treatments and ensure Tim's education," Emma said. Her mother reached across the table, taking Emma's hand. "Sometimes opportunities come in the most unexpected forms. You must decide if this is the right path for you." Emma nodded, the weight of the decision heavy on her shoulders. "I need to think about it." As she lay in bed that night, Emma's mind was a storm of thoughts and emotions. The proposal was unconventional, even absurd, but the potential benefits for her family were undeniable. She decided she would meet with Richard the next day to discuss the terms further, knowing that whatever choice she made would alter the course of her life forever. The next morning, Emma returned to the Adams mansion, her resolve firm. She found Richard in his office, waiting expectantly. "Mr. Adams, I've thought about your proposal," she began, taking a deep breath, "and I've decided to accept." The preparations for the wedding began in earnest, filled with tension and skepticism from the mansion staff and Emma's neighbors. Emma moved into the Adams mansion temporarily to become familiar with her new life, feeling like an outsider in the opulent surroundings. The staff watched her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism, making her feel even more isolated. One morning, while Emma was trying on her wedding dress, a soft knock on the door startled her. "Come in," she called. Ethan entered, his expression conflicted. "How are you doing?" he asked, trying to bridge the gap between them. "It's a lot to take in," Emma admitted, turning to face him. "Everything here is so different from what I'm used to." "I can imagine," Ethan said, his tone gentle. "If there's anything you need, just let me know." "Thank you," Emma replied, offering a small smile. "I'm still adjusting." As the wedding day approached, chaos erupted with attempts to sabotage the event. The floral arrangements, which were supposed to be simple yet elegant, arrived in disarray, and the caterer called, canceling at the last minute. It became clear that these disruptions were no accident. Richard called an emergency meeting in his study. "Someone is trying to sabotage this wedding," he said, his voice cold with anger. "We need to find out who." Suspicion fell on Jake, Emma's old flame, who had been seen near the mansion recently. Ethan decided to confront him. He found Jake at a local bar. "Jake, I know you're behind this," Ethan said, his voice firm. "Why?" Jake smirked, his jealousy evident. "Sarah deserves better than to be a pawn in your father's game." "Maybe she does," Ethan admitted, surprising Jake. "But she made a choice. Respect that." Jake's expression hardened. "If you care about her, you'll call off this sham of a wedding. This isn't just about me or my father. It's about Sarah and her family. Your interference only makes things harder for her," Ethan said, his eyes narrowed. After a tense moment, Jake finally relented. "Fine, I'll back off." Back at the mansion, the chaos gradually settled. With the saboteur exposed and deterred, the preparations resumed smoothly. The night before the wedding, Emma stood on the balcony, looking out over the city. Ethan joined her, the cool breeze easing some of the tension. "Tomorrow everything changes," Ethan said softly. "Yes, it does," Emma replied, her heart heavy but resolute. "But maybe change isn't so bad." Ethan smiled, a genuine warmth in his eyes. "We'll face it together then." The day of the wedding dawned clear and bright, the early morning sun casting a golden glow over the grand venue. The Adams mansion had been transformed into a floral wonderland, with intricate arrangements lining the pathways and adorning the entrance. Guests, dressed in their finest attire, began to arrive, their chatter a mix of admiration and speculative whispers. Emma stood in a small, elegantly decorated room off the main hall, her heart pounding. Her mother fussed over her dress, a beautiful yet simple gown that contrasted starkly with the opulence around her. "You look stunning, Emma," her mother said, her eyes welling with pride and emotion. "Thank you, Mom," Emma replied, her voice barely a whisper. She glanced at herself in the mirror, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. Today, she was stepping into a world that was not her own. for the sake of her family. In another room, Ethan adjusted his tie, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. His best man, his childhood friend Alex, clapped him on the back. "You ready for this?" Alex asked. "Ready as I'll ever be," Ethan said, forcing a smile. This isn't how I imagined my wedding day." "I know," Alex replied gently, "but sometimes life takes us on unexpected paths. Just remember why you're doing this." Ethan nodded, taking a deep breath. As he left the room, he caught a glimpse of his father, Richard, giving last-minute instructions to the staff. Their eyes met, and Richard gave him a reassuring nod. The ceremony began with a soft melody played by a string quartet, setting a serene tone. Guests filled the seats, their eyes turning to the aisle as Emma made her entrance. Ethan stood at the altar, his breath catching as he saw her. For a moment, everything else faded away. She looked beautiful, her inner strength radiating outward. As she reached his side, he offered her a gentle smile, which she returned hesitantly. The officiant began the ceremony, his voice a calming presence. "We are gathered here today to witness the union of Ethan and Emma. This union is a testament to the power of love and the bonds that hold us together." As the vows were exchanged, Emma's voice trembled slightly but held firm. "I, Emma, take you, Ethan, to be my husband. I promise to support you, to honor you, and to stand by you through all that life may bring." Ethan's eyes softened as he spoke his vows. "I, Ethan, take you, Emma, to be my wife. I promise to cherish you, to respect you, and to walk with you through whatever comes our way." The officiant cleared his throat and said, "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." As their lips met in a brief, symbolic kiss, the reception that followed was a blur of congratulations and glad smiles. In the weeks that followed their wedding, Ethan and Emma began to navigate their new reality. The initial days were filled with awkward moments as they adjusted to each other's presence in their lives. Emma felt out of place in the grand mansion, while Ethan struggled with the expectations placed upon him by his father. Despite the challenges, they started finding common ground. One evening, as Emma wandered through the mansion, she stumbled upon a hidden door in the east wing. Curious, she pushed it open and gasped at what she found. The room was filled with sculptures, tools, and unfinished artworks. The light filtering through the tall windows cast a warm glow on the vibrant pieces. "Michael," she called out, her voice echoing in the spacious room. Ethan appeared at the doorway, a look of surprise on his face. "I see you found my studio," he said, a hint of embarrassment in his tone. "These are incredible," Emma said, walking among the sculptures. "Why do you keep this hidden?" Ethan sighed, stepping into the room. "My father never approved. He always saw it as a distraction from my responsibilities. But this is a part of who you are," Emma said, meeting his eyes. "You shouldn't have to hide it." Ethan looked at her, a mixture of gratitude and sadness in his eyes. "It's not that simple, Emma. My father has certain expectations. Maybe it's time to show him that you can be both a responsible son and a passionate artist," she suggested. Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing her words. "You're right. Maybe it's time to stop hiding." Their bond deepened as they faced challenges together, including a smear campaign against Emma orchestrated by a business competitor, Robert Harris. One morning, tabloids splashed headlines about Emma's past, painting her in an unflattering light. "Michael, I'm so sorry," Emma said, tears in her eyes as she read the article. "I never wanted to bring this kind of trouble to you." Ethan wrapped his arms around her, his voice firm. "This isn't your fault, Emma. Harris is trying to use you to get to me. We'll handle this together." Ethan stood firm, defending Emma's character and contributions to their business. Emma's strategic insights helped secure a crucial deal, earning her respect from Richard and the board members. Richard, recognizing Emma's positive influence on his son, called a family meeting. "I owe you both an apology," Richard began, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. "I misjudged you, Emma, and the impact you would have on Ethan. Your insights and integrity have proven invaluable." "Thank you, Richard," Emma replied, genuinely touched. "That means a lot." Richard sighed, his stern facade cracking. "When I built this company, I was driven by the fear of failure. My own father was a harsh man, never satisfied with anything I did. I swore I would prove him wrong, but in doing so, I became just like him." Emma listened intently, her heart aching for the man who had always seemed so unyielding. "It's never too late to change, Richard. You've already taken the first step by recognizing it." Richard nodded, a hint of a smile touching his lips. "Your influence on Ethan has been profound. He's become the man I always hoped he would be, thanks to you." As the weeks passed, Michael and Sarah's bond grew stronger. They faced each new challenge together, united by love and determination, ready to take on whatever the future held. As Adams Realty implemented new ethical policies and community engagement initiatives, Ethan's leadership inspired a collective sense of purpose. Employees felt a renewed commitment to their work, driven by Ethan's sincere dedication to both the business and its social responsibilities. Emma, too, found her place within the company, offering valuable insights that further strengthened their initiatives. One evening, while Ethan was working late in his studio, Emma received an anonymous letter. The envelope, addressed to her, was thick and worn. As she carefully opened it, her eyes widened in surprise. The letter detailed a hidden inheritance left by a distant relative she had never known, hinting at a fortune that could change everything for her and her family. "Ethan, look at this," she said, handing him the letter. Ethan read the contents, his eyebrows raising in astonishment. A hidden inheritance? This could be a new adventure. Excitement and curiosity mingled in Emma's gaze. "It's a chance for a fresh start, something just for us. We'll face it together," Ethan said, taking her hand. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it." As they delved into the mystery of the inheritance, they discovered it was more than just money. It included a historic property in Napa Valley, an old vineyard that had fallen into disrepair. Despite its current state, they saw the potential for revival, envisioning a future where they could build something meaningful together. Richard, upon hearing the news, was surprisingly supportive. "This could be a great opportunity for you both," he said, his tone sincere. "Sometimes, stepping away from the familiar is what you need to grow." Emma and Ethan decided to take on the challenge. They traveled to Napa Valley, where they were greeted by a sprawling yet neglected vineyard. The task ahead was daunting, but they felt a sense of purpose and excitement. "Look at this place," Ethan said, standing at the edge of the vineyard. "It's beautiful, even in its current state." "It has so much potential," Emma agreed. "We can turn this into something amazing." With renewed determination, they began the arduous process of restoring the vineyard. They worked side by side, learning about viticulture and the intricacies of winemaking. Their bond grew stronger as they faced each challenge, their shared vision driving them forward. Back in San Francisco, Adams Realty thrived under the new policies. Richard, inspired by Ethan and Emma's dedication, continued to lead with integrity and a focus on community. The company's reputation soared, and they gained respect not just for their business acumen, but for their commitment to social responsibility. One day, while inspecting the vineyard, Ethan and Emma received a visit from Richard. "I wanted to see how things are going," he said, looking around at the progress they had made. "It's coming along nicely," Ethan replied, pride in his voice. "I'm impressed," Richard said, his eyes softening. "You've built something incredible here." "Thank you, Dad," Ethan said, his voice filled with emotion. "We couldn't have done it without your support." As they stood together, looking out over the vineyard, the setting sun casting a golden glow over the landscape, they felt a deep sense of accomplishment and unity. Ethan and Emma had found their place in the world, blending their vastly different backgrounds into a harmonious future. Their journey had been one of unexpected alliances, personal growth, and the transformative power of love and determination. They faced the future with confidence, ready to embrace whatever adventures lay ahead, knowing they would always have each other.